Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. Hello, it's Transformational Tip Tuesday. Please tell me I'm not here all by myself. Yeah, there they are. Sometimes it takes a minute for those comments to come in. Jocelyn, Jeanette, Patsy, hello. I'm glad you're here. I am glad you're here. And I'm really excited to talk today about, we're talking about identity, because identity is everything. It's how we relate to the whole world. It's how we do life. So I'm excited to share some ideas and some thoughts with you on this. And let's hang out. Let's do this. And my bra straps are showing. I don't like that. Bra straps need to stay inside. I need to maybe not wear them. Maybe I'll just go without one. Doris, hello. Glad to have you here. I'm always glad when you all show up, by the way. It makes me feel really happy because I don't like being alone on this big World Wide Web all by myself. Hi, Kathy. Kathy's here too, by the way. Say hi to Kathy. All right, so today we're going to be talking about, again, more about identity. And if you were here yesterday, we spoke about how our identities really impact everything, including our priorities, which we talked about last week. Alice Debbie, hello. I'm glad you're here. And so today we're going to go a little bit further into the whole identity thing and how the way we view ourselves can be very limiting. And I have some interesting stuff for you. So we're going to dive into that juicy stuff. If you're a note taker, please take notes. If you're not, get our show notes. You can always get our show notes. You can find them at savingdinner.com. It's a little pop-up that pops right up and it says, hey, you want our newsletter? Of course you do. Hi, Debbie. Of course you want our newsletter. That's all you have to do. And then today's show notes will be in tomorrow's newsletter, first thing in the morning. So a few things for you. Number one, we have a fantastic quote of the week. If you want to increase your success rate, double your failure rate. You know what? That means that you're going to get out there and try. When we try and do, sometimes it doesn't always work out. We can't be afraid of failure because we aren't going to get the things that we want in this life if we just shrink back. Yeah, living a safe life isn't living a fun life. It isn't living a vibrant life. All right? Some little mosquito thing in my ear. Hello, Nancy. Cheers to Mother Hen. And Patsy says show notes are great. I can't write fast enough. Well, I get it. I totally get it. So cheers. Speaking of cheers, you know what's in my bottle? You guessed it. I've got hot melt mix in there and our Crave water. It is back in stock, folks. You can find it at savingdinner.com/Crave water. I'll show you how to make it and I'll show you what it's all about. Crave water knocks out cravings. Like that fast. Because there's 4 grams of L-glutamine in each scoop, but it tastes exactly like lemonade. Lemonade with a little stevia. No fake artificial nothings. It's just fantastic. Just fantastic. We have a guy who helps us, Jordan. He's a supplement guy. That's what he does. He knows supplements inside and out. I sent him a container of this and he texted me yesterday and he goes, that is the best tasting stuff ever. And let me just tell you something. He was so many companies all over the place and he's going nuts about this. And he's saying it's really helping him with muscle soreness, which I can attest to. Because I have muscle soreness like nobody's business. I'm getting it around the ribs from doing all these sit-up stuff and, on these incline benches and pulling up and all that. And in addition to everything else that I'm doing. And I have just been so sore and it's enter Crave water. L-glutamine fixes it, makes muscle soreness go away. The other thing it does is helps fix your gut. And then, of course, it's the cravings component. That's the biggie for so many people. I just really invite you to take a look at this, especially if you're just like back and forth and really battling out the whole thing with cravings. This will work for you. I've had hundreds and hundreds of people say it works. And it's based on science. So yeah, it works. It's like I told you this, psychiatrist told me about this. She works with addicted patients. That's her specialty. She puts them on L-glutamine, first line of defense, because it is so helpful with cravings. And what does a craving tell you? Craving tells you have an addiction to something. As a former sugar junkie, I know. We also have our Etsy store, by the way. You can find that at savingdinner.com/Etsy, all the swag that a girl can ask for. Elaine's in the house. Yay, yay, yay. So is our Deborah, Lisa. Sue's here. Yay. It makes me happy. I'm glad to have you all here. We're doing something fun this week. It's called Name Your Price. Name Your Price sale on a bunch of digital products. You know, we trotted all these things out. You know why? Because it's just sitting there doing nothing. And I want you to have valuable stuff at your fingertips, because there is nothing better than having the right recipe, having the delicious recipe. It's within the bounds of what it is that you want and the style in which you're eating. There you go. All you have to do is go to savingdinner.com/show, and you can go in there and seriously, you choose your price. We don't care what you pay. Choose your price. Isn't that fun? We're like that. We're fun like that. Oh my goodness. So what else can I tell you about? I think that's all. Free shipping. I told you that. If you spend $300 with us on the lower 48, we're going to send your stuff to you absolutely free, because that's our thank you to you. Big time. I mean, that means a lot to us. We know you have choices, and yet you choose to be with us. What do you think? How do you think that makes us feel? It makes us feel chosen. You've made a decision with us, and we're a small woman-owned business led by women, doing our womanly thing, and here you are supporting us. Thank you. It means a lot. Now, next week, next Monday, 6 days from now, we are doing the Hot Melt 30 webinar. Now, the Hot Melt 30 is creating the Hot Melt Sprint for 30 days with more recipes and what have you, with a guide, with adding a little more to the stack, shall we say, of things to do. Meditating, for example, showing up for the daily dish, doing things that are moving the needle in your life toward that vibrancy that you all so much want. It's a big deal. And it is the thing that has pushed a lot of people into the hot melt way becoming the way of life. And I'm pretty proud of it. And I'd love to have you here. So go get signed up. That's at savingdinner.com/30, THIRTY. And girlfriends, I'm telling you, when we get together, we always have a good time. Oh, and the other thing that you need to know, there will be hot seats at this particular webinar. We did them last time, and it was a big hit. And if you want to be a part of this and get a hot seat, well, I'm telling you, it's just as easy as signing up. I just gave it to you. savingdinner.com/30. Spell that out. THIRTY. And that, my friends, is the wrap on everything that I have to tell you about, except the show notes. I'm going to give you the show notes right now, because I'm going to talk about this idea of identity and the influence of identity. Now, Mark Manson is an author, and he wrote this book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F-Bomb, but the F-Bomb is in the title. He wrote this book in 2016. I remember the first time I saw it was in an airport, a bookstore, and I had nothing to read. I had a long flight, and I picked it up. I thought, what the heck? You know, it was getting a lot of press at that time. And I picked it up, and I found some nuggets in it. I thought it was good. I thought he was a little bit on the doggy downer side, shall we say. I'm a little bit more optimistic than he is, but he had some really good points. And the way he writes is pretty terrific. I get his newsletter. which I think is pretty infrequent. I don't think he's much of a newsletter writer because I don't. It's not like something you get like the Daily Dish. You don't get it every day. But he's an articulate writer and had come up with some things. This book was a massive bestseller. As a matter of fact, interestingly, within the next year, a whole bunch of books came out that had the F-bomb in the title, which to me is kind of a lowbrow thing, and it's just, not that, I've heard salty language before. Um, haven't you? Yeah, we all have. But, it's just like, okay, well, I guess that's kind of a trendy thing to do. I don't know. Put that in your title. Why not? Can you imagine that with saving dinner? Saving F-bomb dinner? I don't think so. I would never do anything like that. Hey, Jackie, I'm glad you're here. But anyway, his book was a groundbreaker. And a lot of people came alongside with it because they were sick and tired of the everything's great. You just have to think positive thoughts and everything good will come your way, blah, 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 blah. And well, I will tell you, there's some truth to that, of course, because of our reticular activating system, the way that our brains are and what have you. However, nobody does that perfectly. Nobody is able to just be in complete 100% alignment with 100% positivity 100% of the time. Am I right? Have you noticed that? So instead of promoting relentless positivity and the endless pursuit of happiness, he comes alongside and argues that life's limited. It is. He's right. And it's filled with problems. Everyone has problems. He's right about that too. So, but the thing is, and this is where I agree with him so much, is that what makes life meaningful is not avoiding problems, but choosing the right problems to solve. And the other thing that I liked about it is that he also puts an emphasis on our experience and how we are experiencing our lives and what it is that we're choosing to focus on, which, that's part of my whole thing too. So amen, Patsy, right on. So there's some key points to the book. I'm going to kind of point them out because that'll kind of set up the whole idea, because he has some quotes about identity that made me go, oh, those are good. And I wanted to share, those are the things that I wanted to share, but I wanted to give context, of course, to this Mark Manson guy. Number one thing was not everything deserves our concern. Isn't that a good point? A very good point. We have a limited amount of time. We have a limited amount of energy. Where's it going? And not everything needs our attention. Not everything deserves our concern. We have to be selective about where we put our focus. Of course. Excellent point. The other thing is we need to also embrace our limitations, because that's what makes us who we are, And what that does, it helps us to push maybe a little bit. It helps us to push us into our own growth and our own progress by saying, hey, I'm just not capable of X, Y, and Z, but I can do this. And it helps us to see the strengths that we have, and it helps us to see also the weaknesses that we have. Because, if it's counterproductive, if we're just endlessly saying, yeah, I'm a great basketball star, and we can't even shoot hoops, right? Can't even get it into the net. The other thing is there's value in suffering. Truly, there is value in suffering. It has an intrinsic value because it's inevitable for everyone. Not a single soul I know hasn't suffered. But what does that suffering always lead to if you're looking for it? Right? It's growth. It's development of your personal self. It is evolvement. Doesn't it? Isn't that true? If you choose the lesson over just the suffering, because there's a lot of people who choose the suffering instead of trying to extrapolate the lesson. Big, huge thing there. And that's a part of our identity too. Are we just suffering for the sake of suffering? Or are we learning something from it? Number 4, there's this whole idea of responsibility and whose fault it is and all of that other kind of stuff. Well, I say, he does too, that it is our responsibility to handle our own problems. Taking personal responsibility is an act of strength. It's an act of resilience. It's an act of becoming the whole of who you're supposed to be. Because when you take personal responsibility and stop blame shifting and stop all that stuff, then guess what? Life starts to open up for you and you start to see the possibilities. You can't do that if you're just like, well, I can't help it. It's because of this situation. It's because of that situation. Well, if this hadn't happened, then I would have been this, that, and the other thing. And the point is that we always, always, always have a choice. And personal responsibility, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago, is a huge part of it. It empowers us and it allows us to change our response and to change our situation simply by taking personal responsibility. Number 5 is the importance of saying no. Hello. No is one of my favorite sentences, by the way. When we put up boundaries and we decline the things that do us damage, we are giving a vote for ourselves. We're saying yes to our own self-care. And by the way, isn't this just a little bit about self-care? When we correctly align with an identity that lights us up, I say yes. The number 6 is questioning our values because, listen, we have to. We change. We evolve. We become. We grow beyond. That's what happens. When what we value determines the quality of our lives, period. So it's essential to be introspective. This ensures our values to lead a fulfilling life. Otherwise, what are we left with? Pretty much a bag of nothing. So while he's direct and he's raw and he has some salty language in the book, he does have some good takeaways there. That's what I wanted to share with you in there. And, airplane books to me are different than regular books. And it was my fault for not bringing a book in the first place. But usually I read on an airplane. Sometimes I work, but usually I read. But he has 2 quotes about identity and how you view yourself. And I think they're worth repeating. Again, these are going to be in the show notes tomorrow, but check these out because they're jaw droppers. Number 1, the more something threatens your identity, the more you will avoid it. Okay, that's number 1. And the second one, the narrower your identity you choose for yourself, the more everything will threaten you. And I just see teeny tiny box is what I see. And just trying to fit into that teeny tiny box, And these are deep-rooted psychological responses that we have to the challenges that confront our sense of self. And I think we need to unpack it a little bit and take a look at it and see where the application is. Because for some people, it's just going to be, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, check all those boxes. And for others, it's just going to be a couple of things here that apply. So let's understand these quotes. The first thing is we have to identify, look at our identity as a comfort zone. It is. It's a comfort zone. So this is how he defines it. He says our identity is the perception of who we are, our values, beliefs, and statuses. And those are all a form of a comfort zone. So anything that can challenge or disrupt this comfort zone is seen as a threat. And it's seen as a threat and disruption to the established view that we have of ourselves. You know what my take on it is, though? Is that we set ourselves up with our words. When we start saying things like, well, I'm just lazy. I'm just a couch potato. I'm just whatever. And sometimes even in jest, we're giving our brains a directive, a command, if you will, of this is what we are. And it's funny that couch is going to suck you down even more. And that, this lazy stuff, boy, are you going to really feel lazy, and so forth, because your brain is listening to every word that you say, every single word. And this, I will tell you, this becomes our identity. And we're saying it in jest. Oh, I'm just a couch potato. Ha, ha, ha. You don't want that, then don't say it. Say the things that you want. Because what we want to do is we want things to become a reality. We want to manifest into our world, shall we say, the things that we want, not the things that we don't want. And so we have to be very careful and cautious with our words, because I am is an absolute proclaimer of what your identity is. Number 2, your defense mechanisms. When our identity is threatened, we often resort to defense mechanisms. You know what they are: denial, projection, blame shifting, rationalization. What does this do? It protects our ego. It keeps us always being right. We never have to admit that we're wrong. And it maintains the status quo of what our self-perception is. Right or wrong. Right or wrong. So my thought with this one is this is how we stay the same, because we never challenge our beliefs. We never challenge them. And I'm not asking you to get into your religious beliefs and start ripping them down, by the way. Just want to make sure that's clear. What I'm saying is, have you believed something about yourself that you later found out to be completely 100% false? Limiting beliefs are like that. And limiting beliefs are things that we often bring on board to your 65-year-old self. And it's something that you learned when you were a kid that just isn't true. But we don't challenge them. We're not going to get rid of them. That's the deal. In my opinion, too, and this is, just another side note, is I believe that self-analysis, not hypercriticism, but self-analysis, like what's going on here, and trying to be a little bit analytical about what's going on, is a form of self-care. Because it's saying I care enough to notice myself and to notice what I'm doing and to notice that I'm out of alignment. This is what I say my values are, but I'm not doing this. Or I'm not about that. Or my actions aren't lining up with this. I got to correct that. We don't have to beat ourselves up, y'all. Not at all. But we do need to notice. We do need to take note. And when we do this, it helps to clear the decks. It makes things very clear. Number 3 is avoidance. That's a prime defense mechanism, isn't it? Avoidance. Pretend it's not there, and it keeps us away from any potential discomfort, doesn't it? We sidestep these things. We sidestep it and just, by not making a decision, but we still make a decision, don't we? But the avoidance doesn't get us off the hook. It just puts us in a pickle a lot of times. It usually makes things worse. And so my thought on avoidance is that it's a convenient way to never have to face the truth of what you're about. And that's what it is. And I just want to say this as a side note, because, especially in today's heated political climate and all the talking heads on TV and all the stuff, there isn't a soul on this planet that has it right, that has the 100% unvarnished truth. Not one. Not one. And with all the conspiracy stuff and all the other stuff and just the exhausting low vibeness of it all, I think we just sometimes need to take a step back. And while no one is above scrutiny or criticism, and you don't need to ladle it on thick, you need some bone honesty in your own life to figure out what's going on with yourself before you're fingering everybody else and trying to get them all riled up. I see people, a lot of junk on Facebook. Man, I've almost curated my algorithm so that I'm only getting like goats that are dancing and happy thoughts and people's with their pets and, kissy stuff. I've almost done that, but every once in a while something pops into my peripheral and it just kind of, you know what I do? I unfollow. If they're really heinous, I will just unfriend them, but usually I'll just unfollow them. And so I don't have to have that junk on my feed. That's how we curate our feed. We don't have to have that stuff flooding in. It is a garbage trail, by the way, so we don't have to do that. We want to figure out what is high vibe and how do I create that in my life? How do I make it wonderful? Yeah, but you can only snooze them for 30 days, Patsy. If you unfollow them, you don't have to see their garbage at all, because 30 days later, their stuff will show back up. That's why I do that. Because I'm not interested. I'm not interested in anyone's politics. I'm not interested in my own even, to be honest. I'm tired of it all. And it just wears me out. And, enough said on all of that. So I say, so what do we do about this when it's our identity that's at stake. What do we do with this? What do we, where do we go with it? Well, the number one thing is, of course, is to embrace the discomfort. Have you noticed that when you lean into the discomfort, that you are going to reap the reward? Think about it with a workout, or Patsy, remember when you were doing the basement, the decluttering there? Remember, y'all think about it. Think about the discomfort that you've embraced in your life and how it was a breakthrough. Discomfort often is that way. It is a breakthrough for you to become stronger than you ever thought you were. And it's not to become, it's to discover how strong you are, because it's inside of you. You're created that way. I think that's so exciting. We're created that way. If we're created in the image of God, what do you think? Of course, strong. Number 2 is that mindfulness and self-awareness need to be a part of the equation. We just don't need to be along. We don't. And when we engage in practices like meditation and journaling, we find a little bit more out about ourselves. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed this calmness that you didn't see before? Have you noticed this inner strength that is just starting to shine through? And just this ability to maybe hold your tongue where before you couldn't? That's what I've noticed about all of these things. So when you can understand yourself better, you can catch yourself when you start avoiding challenges and instead go into the discomfort a little bit and make conscious choices to face them. That's pretty cool. That's all due to a little identity tweak. Number 3 is you can reframe your identity. This one is so good and so important. And listen up, okay? Because I know this applies to so many people, me included. So instead of seeing yourself as someone with fixed traits, well, I'm just a chronic worrier. It's just the way I am, right? Something like that. Adopt a growth mindset. Now, Carol Dweck wrote that great book about growth mindset. Dweck is D-W-E-C-K, Carol Dweck. And the whole premise of the book is a fixed mindset is going to give you a rigid, small, narrow identity, where a growth mindset is going to help you to see the possibilities of the things that you're focusing on. And that is just what an enormously wonderful idea. Growth mindset also looks at the fact that our intelligence can grow, even at this age, that our thoughts can become better. We can become more empathetic. We can become more emotionally intelligent. All of these are available to us if we just reframe our identity as one who accepts these things. If you see yourself as someone who's always evolving, always learning, and always growing, what do you think the outcome of that's going to be? It's going to be beautiful is what that's going to be. You're always going to be in the becoming place. You're always going to be in the place where life is working out for you, always. I love that. I just think it's so beautiful. Number 4 is a fun one, because these are some of the things that we can do in order to get ourselves out of the comfort zone. And especially if, we don't want to be you, or we don't want to other people, do we? Let me just say this. I don't know a lot about other people's cultures. Some of them I do a little bit. But where you learn about other people's cultures? When you're in their homes, or when you ask about certain things. I went to a Jewish wedding for the first time in, 2018, I think it was 19. And what a beautiful tradition. All the traditions were so beautiful. And I asked for explanations for all of it and all of that. And it was just experiencing that, and the huppah and all of that was just an incredible experience. But it was out of my comfort zone. I've never been to anything like that, but it helped me to see culturally there are people who do things differently than me. I want to go to an Indian wedding where they have Bollywood dancing. That's on my list. I hope somebody invites me to their wedding, because I really wanted to go to that. We have a wedding that we're going to in October, but it's definitely not a Bollywood wedding. But that, if we seek out diversity, culturally, beliefs, experiences, things that are a little bit different than what we want, it keeps us a little more flexible and a little bit more loving and a little bit more expansive in our thinking. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can still, we still have our beliefs, of course. But when we understand others, we don't other them. We accept them. That's a big, huge difference. Number 5 is to challenge your beliefs. And often, we have to ask ourselves, do I still believe this? Do I still believe this to be true about X, Y, and Z? Why do I hold these beliefs? That's a question. Have you ever asked yourself that? That's a big, juicy question. Are they serving you well? Are they serving your mankind well? Is it helping you to become a better person? What are these about? So those are things that you might want to ask yourself. The other thing is to seek feedback. We have a really remarkable group of women in the Hot Melt Sprint group. If you need some feedback, ask in that group. I promise you'll get good feedback, because constructive feedback can really help you to shape some understandings of your identity. It might help benefit you in what it is that you're thinking about and how to shape these things and how it all fits into who you are. Other people, not so that we can people please, not so that they are going to crowd source who you are, but just to say, am I on the right track? I'm doing this. Does this make sense to you? I think it's a beautiful thing to do, and it's also very trusting, and it's vulnerable as well. And the lastly is, if you find it particularly challenging to face threats to your identity, you might want to consider going and talking to your pastor or a counselor or some other professional, because it's okay to feel that way, but it's also not okay to live in anxiety over it. And if you're trying to develop things and you're scared to grow and scared to reach out and scared to get out of the box, it's time to really go see somebody. There's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I've done it myself, and it made a difference. It made a difference. It helped me to just be a little bit more gentle and kind to myself. So while it's natural to avoid any kind of threats to our identity, it's also a good thing to challenge ourselves and to take a look at all these things. Because when we make a decision to challenge ourselves, we're making a decision that's absolutely pro us, that's saying, I am interested in growth, I'm interested in expansion, I'm interested in evolving. And there's never anything wrong with that. As a matter of fact, that is often the way to lift up and go to the next level. It's often the way that, it's the road less traveled. But I will tell you this, it is the road that must be traveled if you are on the path to vibrancy. All righty then, that's today's show. Tomorrow is Wise Women's Wednesday. I cannot wait. Now go get signed up while you have the minute and you're still here at your computer. Go to savingdinner.com/30THIRTY. Put a reminder on your phone or whatever. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern on Monday night. We're going to have a good old time, and there's going to be hot seats. We'll send you a hot seat form so you can send it in. It's going to be good. And I'm going to be there to help you every single step of the way. Last time we did it, we were there for a couple hours. It was an amazing time. You can, of course, come and go as you want, but I promise you it'll be a good time. Thank you, Nancy, for showing up. Thank you all. And if you've missed any of our announcements, of course, savingdinner.com/announcements. Peace be with you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.